So I've had my Waydoo EVO Pro Plus for 9 months now. My first session was on September 30th, 2024. I have 1,800 miles on the setup with 162 sessions, and figured I'd give a longer term review, tell you guys how it's been going and what I think about the board. First off, disclaimer, I am a Waydoo affiliate, which means if you use the link at the bottom, you will get a small discount on the purchase of a board. Regardless, these are my opinions, not influenced by Waydoo, and I paid full retail for the board. I'm still loving it. No regrets. I would buy it again. What I've got is, I said, a Pro Plus, which is a 90-liter board, 5 foot long. It's a 35-inch. I have a 35-inch mast, the 6,000 watt motor, and both the Voyager 1500 and Voyager 1100 wings. So about the parts, battery, I have the larger battery. I have what is 150, 160 charge cycles on it. I keep very meticulous records. I have had absolutely no range degradation. As I said, this is the 35-inch aluminum mast. The board is the 90-liter EPP foam board. You know, most of the eFoil manufacturers out there make a carbon board, and the carbon boards are prettier, no contest. But I really, really like the foam board. I've had a fiberglass board in the past, and just the slightest little bumps, ding it, cracked paint. I have none of those problems with the Waydoo board. I have set it on top of a SUP, and pushed a stand-up paddleboard around, and I have no concerns about doing that at all. I can set it on the deck, I can pivot it along. I have bumped it a couple of times, no damage, works great. It's also soft if you bump part of your body into it. So again, really, really like the board. Next up, support. So I have contacted Waydoo on a handful of items, and I have had great support from the folks at Waydoo. As far as the issues that I've had, I broke a prop. I don't know if I hit something or if it just failed. Waydoo replaced it under warranty. Probably the major issue that I had was that the connection pin in the motor, there's 4 connection pins in the connection between the mast and the motor, and one of those connection pins came loose. This happened because I was removing the mast after every single ride and reinserting it before every single ride. I was doing that because I ride in very, very salty water, and I was concerned about corrosion. Nonetheless, this frequent disassembly, reassembly process is likely what caused the problem. Waydoo replaced the motor under warranty. I have had some very minor separation of some of the rubber on the top of the board, and it's actually only in the small little piece that kind of snaps in front of the battery. I simply added a little bit of super glue under that rubber top and put it back down. I mean, I've had the same kind of problem happen on surfboards and paddleboards and every kind of board over the years. I have had one of the L-bolts, so there are these L-bolts that tighten the mast to the board so that you can do that by hand. I've had one of those L-bolts fail, and what I mean by fail is that it's an aluminum lever arm on top of a steel shaft, and the aluminum stripped out. After, a couple hundred assemblies and disassemblies, you know what, stuff wears out. I bought a couple new ones, no big deal. There are also rubber seals on the top of the mast on the electrical connections where it meets the battery. Those rubber seals, if you don't insert the battery very calmly and very square, you can pinch those rubber seals. I have pinched a couple of the rubber seals, causing them to rip. Same thing, I just bought a couple new ones. Had no problem getting those sourced from Waydoo. Just sent them an email, told them what I was looking for. No issues whatsoever. As far as the overall ride, as I said, I'm still absolutely loving the board. You can go fast, you can go slow, it's very maneuverable, it carves well. It's probably not the lightest thing out there, but you know what, unless you're a pro, it's great. I absolutely love it. The board has a number of features that are unique to Waydoo. There's a grab handle in the front, which actually you can mount a camera on. You can use it just for getting up and on the board. Very, very handy. I really like that handle. The board has what they call flight assist, which has ultrasonic sensors in the nose, allowing the board essentially to self-level. What it does is it fluctuates throttle control. So if you hold the trigger in one steady place, it nonetheless changes throttle depending on the angle of the board, basically to keep the board level. Flight assist makes the board tons more stable. I thought that was going to be kind of a gimmick, but it's not. It really works. My son can easily ride the board after a couple of sessions. He's up and foiling using flight assist. Easy. As far as advice goes, I would absolutely get the bigger battery if given the option. So not the 1800, I get the 2300 battery. As far as the charger, I got the standard slow charger, and sometimes I wish I had the faster charger. If I was to go back and do it again, that's probably the only thing I might change. I might get the fast charger. I did see someone post recently that you can actually set the fast charger to slow charge, which is probably better for the battery, and then you could crank it up for times when you actually want it to go fast. Other advice, I have the longer mast. I would probably bias toward getting the longer mast unless you are riding in really shallow areas, and even then, the difference in length isn't so substantial. The longer mast, the 35-inch versus the 27, basically allows you to deal with boat wakes and other chop, just conditions a little bit easier than the shorter mast. Heavier, yep, but a little better on options to deal with wakes. Grease absolutely everything, especially if you are in saltwater. I've got a couple other videos on this, but grease your electrical connection, grease every bolt, do all this significantly and do it pretty regularly. Wash everything with fresh water after you ride. If you ride in saltwater. I ride in some of the saltiest water there is in South Texas. So if you're riding in saltwater, wash everything, grease absolutely everything. I really don't have anything bad to say about the board, the setup, the company. Everything for me has worked very, very well. What I'd like to see from them in the future, maybe a smaller, lighter setup. They have the master board, but the weight is pretty similar to the EVO, the Pro Plus, EVO Pro Plus. I could see them doing a smaller EPP board, so another foam board in a smaller size. I think that would be great. What's next for me? I have on order a prop from eFoil Solutions. So eFoilSolutions.com has some interesting additions to a number of brands, and one of them is they make a prop that under testing gets better range, so it actually is more efficient than the standard prop, and it has a higher top speed. So that's pretty interesting. I've got one of those on order, and I have an Axis wing adapter on order from them as well. So I'll be able to put on Axis wings instead of the Waydoo wings. Just basically more options. That could be really interesting. So I keep a lot of stats on every ride, my speed, my average speed, max speed, how long I was out, how far I went, times, all that kind of stuff, and I do a bit of math on that for projections on ride, potential ride distance and all of that. Every eFoil I've ridden, which isn't a huge number, they've been a little inaccurate in their times. In my opinion, you would have to go very slowly, very straight line, big wing to achieve the kind of ride times that any brand is talking about. All of my times, all of my distances are based on general riding, which for me is mostly turning, mostly carving all the time. And I figure that if I take a big sample set, which I have at this point, a lot of data, and then average all of that stuff out over all that time, I get really good real world general riding numbers. And for that, what I see on the EVO across, using mostly the bigger wing, 2-3/4 of the time my bigger wing, quarter of the time my smaller wing, I see an average projected distance of 18-19 miles, average projected time of hour and a half to 2 hours, just depending on how fast you're going. There's a lot of variance depending on how fast you're going. The prop guard that comes on the board actually has the biggest detrimental impact at higher speeds on your distance. If you leave the prop guard on, your distance will go down dramatically, especially at higher speeds. The folding prop, as has been noted by others, is more efficient than the standard prop. Not a ton more efficient, but a little bit more efficient. Nonetheless, if you are new to eFoiling, leave the prop guard on. Now I would unscrew the back prop guard piece and let debris flow through if debris gets in. Otherwise, that's just going to hold up debris. I don't see really a point for that piece. But the overall prop guard itself actually adds a ton of stability to the board. It makes it a lot more stable. It's very, very noticeable switching back and forth between no prop guard and having the prop guard. Leave that on until you're up and riding and riding well. At that point, you can get rid of the prop guard. Back to the folks at eFoil Solutions, they make a cone to replace the prop guard with just a standard 3D printed cone. I think they want 30 or 40 bucks for it. That's a pretty good price for something so that I can take the prop guard off and leave that totally off. You can also buy the folding prop from Waydoo, which I really like. It's a great design. That comes with a cone as well, but you're going to spend more because you're buying the prop too. As far as the wings go, as I said, I have the Voyager 1500 and the Voyager 1100 wings. I've used the Voyager 1500 quite a bit more than the 1100. I think of my 1800 miles, I have about 13 or 1400 of them on the 1500 wing. If you are new to eFoiling, even if you're not new to eFoiling, I would say get one of the bigger wings, either the Voyager 1500 or the Glider 1500. The reason is well, two reasons. One is speed range. The low end of that wing, both of those wings, I have tried both, is very, very slow. I can ride the board at 10 miles an hour easily, and I can dip down to 8 or 9 and stay on foil on either of the larger wings. That means that you can ride in very small confined areas. It means that you can go very slowly around other water users, friends who are out in the water, without too much risk. So I definitely would advise getting the larger wing. The smaller wing, the 1100, my bottom end speed on that is probably 12 or 13 miles an hour, and it's much more comfortable to ride a little faster, 15, 16 miles an hour. I like that wing quite a lot. I was out on that wing this morning, but you definitely go faster. There's a lot less lift, so not as versatile on the low end, but certainly the high end is there. It is what I've gone my fastest, which is in the mid-20s, and that is a lot of fun. The wings that Waydoo sells are relatively inexpensive compared to other wings, so having more than one wing is not a horrible idea.